criminal histories, financial motivations, and inconsistent statements. That are the people and the quality of the evidence that you're going to listen to in this case. Just to give you another example, there's going to be an individual by the name of Devonta Dirt Rockley. Who is he? He's been a paid informant for years. You're going to hear that they have paid him to be an informant. He will, of course, say whatever he needs to say to avoid his own criminal actions, but his testimony will be inconsistent. And that's what you have to really rely on. It's what exactly is he going to say, and can you even believe it? In addition to that, you're also going to learn about a disgraced LAPD detective by the name of Greg Keffe. The state told you about him. He wrote a book. He benefited off of what was happening with regards to Keffe. Now, Greg Keffe, he stole the file. What you're going to learn is he actually stole the file. He took the Tupac and the Biggie case files and walked out the door. This is an LAPD detective that they are using, or one of the people that they're going to be focusing on to establish their case. He writes the book, then he holds himself out as the person who solves the murder. That's Greg Keffe. That's the LAPD detective. Now, what you're also going to learn is Greg Keffe, when he was a detective with LAPD, was basically caught manipulating witnesses. And because he was caught manipulating witnesses, it led to cases being overturned. Stand for jury.
Participate to the presence of the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hopefully you were able to get everything situated over the long weekend, and we look forward to proceeding with trial. Before we get started, we do need to have you sworn, so if I could have you all stand and raise your right hand, we'll proceed with that.
You and each of you do solemnly swear that you will well and truly try the case at issue and a true verdict render according to the evidence, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated.
All right. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we're going to turn to opening statements. Mr. Plall, are you ready to give your opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Good morning. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur came to Las Vegas to attend a Mike Tyson fight. After the fight, Tupac, along with Suge Knight, Trayvon Lane, and other people that were with that group, ran into a person named Orlando Anderson. And Orlando Anderson is the defendant's nephew. And when they encountered Orlando Anderson sitting by himself, they attacked him. That attack was captured on video. Then, a few hours later, Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight drive down Flamingo Road to Club 662, where Tupac is scheduled to perform a concert. Then 2.5 hours later, after Tupac and Suge engaged in the beating of Orlando Anderson, they are gunned down. Tupac is gunned down in a drive-by shooting from a white Cadillac in an act of revenge. During those 2.5 hours, you will learn that the defendant was escalating and planning the retribution for the beating of his beloved nephew. Now, let's be clear. Duane Davis did not pull the trigger. But what he did do was plan the retaliation for the beating of his nephew. You will learn that Duane Davis got the gun. You will learn that he got into a white Cadillac. You will learn when the opportunity presented itself for retribution, Duane Davis made sure that the shooters were armed and ready to execute their revenge. And remarkably, you will learn that from Duane Davis himself. But to understand what happened on September 7th, 1996, on the streets of Las Vegas, we need to go about 275 miles west to the city of Compton, California. What you'll learn is that Compton is about 10 square miles. But in the mid-1990s, those 10 square miles were occupied by over 30 gangs claiming its territory. And important to this case, there are two gangs, Mob Piru and the Southside Compton groups. Let's talk a little bit about the Mob Piru. The Mob Piru is a group that associated with the color red. And you'll hear that Suge Knight, the person who was driving Tupac Shakur that night, grew up in the neighborhood of Mob Piru. But by the mid-1990s, he had become a very successful CEO of the record label Death Row Records. But despite, or maybe because of where he came from, you'll hear that Suge Knight continued to employ Mob Piru gang members as part of Death Row. They would act as unofficial security, and other times they would engage in, let's call them other acts, on behalf of Suge Knight. But Death Row in the mid-1990s, record labels were out. They had artists such as Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and of course, Tupac Shakur. And in 1996, Tupac Shakur was maybe the largest and biggest, most successful rapper around. He had just sold, released All Eyes on Me, a double album that was met with huge success. Additionally, Tupac Shakur was a movie star, having appeared in a number of movies in critically acclaimed roles. He has at times been referred to as an icon. But for the purposes of this case, what you need to know is that Tupac Shakur was not a gangster. He was a hip-hop artist associated with the Mob Piru. Now, the other gang that's important to know here is the Southside Compton Crips. And when it comes to Southside, Duane Keffe D Davis was the leader of the Burris Street faction of the Southside Compton Crips. And while Suge Knight rose to prominence in his neighborhood, Duane Davis rose to prominence in his neighborhood because he was a very successful, large-scale drug trafficker. And he moves up in the world of gangs by bringing in money to the neighborhood. The other thing you'll learn is that Orlando Baby Lane Anderson was his nephew and also a highly respected member of the Southside Compton Crips. Now, as part of this case, you're going to hear another name, Eric Zip Martin. Now, Eric Zip Martin is not a member of the Southside Compton Crips. In fact, he's based out of New York. He's involved in the drug trade, and knows Duane Davis as a result of both their involvements in the drug trade. Duane Davis from the West Coast, Eric Zip Martin from the East Coast. And one of the connections that Duane Davis gets through his association with Zip Martin is with Sean Puffy Combs, who was then the CEO of Bad Boy Entertainment. Sean Combs wanted some security when he came out to the West Coast. He was worried about Mob Piru. He was worried about the members of Death Row Records. And so Duane Keffe D Davis agreed to be around to act as unofficial security for Sean Combs and his artists when they came out west. Particularly to ensure there are no problems with Mob Piru and Death Row Records. And this took a rivalry between Mob Piru and Southside Compton Crips and escalated it. And those tensions boiled over in the Lakewood Mall in the summer of 1996. There, you'll hear that Trayvon Lane, a member of the Mob Piru, associated with Death Row Records, was there with other members of Mob Piru in order to do some shopping. Lakewood Mall was a mall nearby Compton. You'll also hear that baby Lane Anderson, Orlando Anderson, the defendant's nephew, was there. Now, Trayvon Lane that day was wearing a chain with a Death Row medallion. And there was a fight that occurs between the Mob Piru group and the Southside Compton Crips. And at one point, that chain is pulled off Trayvon Lane's neck. Now, what happened to that chain is an issue of much dispute. Not everybody agrees with it. But the act of disrespect of pulling the Death Row chain and the brawl that occurs further escalates this heated rivalry. And what you'll learn is that these two men, Trayvon Lane and Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, they encounter each other again, this time in Las Vegas. So that brings us back up to September 7th, 1996, here in Las Vegas. Again, Mike Tyson is fighting Bruce Sullivan. He disposes of him in less than in a round. Doesn't take a full round. And then after the fight, Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, and the people that are here with, they leave. And among his group is Trayvon Lane. And that is why this fight occurs. Trayvon Lane and the Death Row group sees Orlando Anderson standing by himself, and they decide to attack him in retribution for what happened at the Lakewood Mall. You'll see Orlando Anderson's on the bottom of that group. You see security coming, trying to break this up. And then you'll see Tupac Shakur, Suge Knight, Trayvon Lane, and that group exit the MGM Grand. Now, Orlando Anderson was by himself because when Duane Davis purchased the tickets for the Bruce Sullivan fight, he got them through a scalper. So everybody that came with Duane Davis were seated separately throughout the fight. And so Orlando Anderson was, at that time, by himself. You'll see that Mr. Shakur, Mr. Knight, and his group leave the MGM Grand. And you'll see that Orlando Anderson, after being held by security, is questioned for a bit, asked if he wants to press charges. He decides he doesn't want to participate in any type of prosecution and that he doesn't need medical attention. Duane Davis hears about this beating. And what you will hear is that in his world, there is no question that a response is required. And you will hear from Duane Davis what happens next. Because what happened over the next 2.5 hours is something Duane Davis would later describe himself in the secret 2008 interview from his attorney's office with the federal task force. And we'll talk about that interview and the circumstances surrounding that later. But we'll hear about what the next 2.5 hours was. So, what we learn is that Duane Davis is upset about the beating of his nephew. And frankly, that's not an unusual response. What's unusual is the next steps Duane Davis takes. Unusual for the normal person, maybe not unusual for in-gang culture. He is going to organize a retaliation that this beating cannot go unanswered. Then he runs into a person named Zip Martin. Remember the Zip Martin that was the connection with Bad Boy Entertainment from New York? And Zip Martin tells him that he has a
What he tells it right then. He tells it, hey, we're gonna go handle this shit or whatever.
Yeah, like y'all want us to come? Like, you know what I'm gonna do? It was they gonna get 6-6 stupid.
Who's that?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody. You want to come?
Well, how do you know that it's just gonna, she tell
It
you?
was in the lobby, in the lobby.
Did you ask her? Do you have one or is it tells you you can't have?
Yeah. They asked me to leave help. I said, yeah, okay, cool.
I don't know what to get.
Yeah.
So later, Duane Davis organizes 2 vehicles to go over to the 662 Club. Before that, he gets the gun from Zip Martin. He goes out to his Mercedes-Benz, gets the gun from Zip Martin, and then after some time, he assembles 2 cars to go to 662 to violently confront Tupac. And you'll hear that Duane Davis and Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, they go in a white Cadillac and they go to Club 662, waiting for Tupac Shakur, waiting for Suge Knight, waiting for this violent confrontation. And what you'll learn is that Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight don't show up while they're there.
We went, I was in 626, they didn't show up. We waited about 15, 20 minutes, they didn't show up. So, they're like, let's go get some liquor. We stopped at the liquor store. I got out my hand, and then I jumped in the Cadillac.
So what you hear Duane Davis say is he got out of the Cadillac. And the plan at that point is to go to a liquor store, get some booze, and then go back to the Las Vegas Strip and party. What the original intention was before Orlando Anderson was beaten at the MGM Grand. But on the way back to the Las Vegas Strip, they see a caravan of cars. And that caravan included Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. And in that white Cadillac, before the shooting occurs, Duane Davis explains that the driver is Terrence T. Brown. In the rear driver's side is DeAndre Dre, or Big Dre Smith. In the rear passenger side is Orlando Baby Lane Anderson. And Duane Davis himself, KPD, is in the front passenger side. And this is how Duane Davis explains the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. The little liquor store right there, and we came up on Harlem at the Long Bay Boulevard. And, shit, here they come. Tupac! Tupac! I'm like, there you go. Hey, the U-turn wasn't supposed to make it. Just on the U-turn. They was in the middle lane. We just pulled up on the side, checked every car to see where they was.
So what direction?
Tupac, he gave us that away. Otherwise, they would have gone away. He already not put the money to.
You did a U-turn, so then you pull alongside of it. You got it in the car. Have you already had the gun at this point, or at what point you had the gun?
I thought he was going to pull on my side. You know, that's one of them there going to the out for him. You know, he pulled on his side.
So you were fitting the blast if you had to, or you were just...
We would have been on my side, I was there.
Okay. So you handed the gun to the back seat.
Yeah.
You were here, man.
It's Dre
as they see Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight driving to Club 662, Duane Davis, along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson, decide to make a U-turn, confront Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Duane Davis has the firearm. It's the firearm he got from Eric Von Zip Martin, and then he passes it to the back. Duane Davis says that if they were on his side, if Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight were on his side of the vehicle, he would have shot them himself. But because they were on the other side, he handed DeAndre Smith, according to Duane Davis, did not want to shoot at that time, so Orlando Anderson shot into that car. This explains this over and over again.
On the street.
Okay, when he starts blasting, you say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you. Are you nervous?
I just know he does something somebody you know.
When he looks over at you, and then, Tupac's busy getting shot, evidently the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
In the
of
back seat or something.
yeah, what do you see happening inside
And
there?
all that. I see the bullet going through again. I thought he was dead. I thought he was dead. You see his mouth scraping or something in the head or something.
A piece of glass went into his neck right here.
Yeah, the thing in the head.
Great.
I thought he was dead.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, you guys stop the truck, you go to stop the car, you let him get off?
Yeah. And we made the right.
Okay, but he stopped what you said, why you cool, let off, get it off.
And we made the right and, so all the, see where he was falling. Stupid bitches. And shot, they went around and they stopped.
So Tupac's trying to jump in the back seat. It was shit.
He couldn't really look like he was too big, you know? Yeah.
One other thing Duane Davis talks about during the murder of Tupac Shakur is that there's a car full of women, I think he calls them broads at one point, a car full of women who are there as well. And what she's going to tell you is that she disagrees slightly with Mr. Davis's rendition of facts. They were in fact communicating with Suge and Tupac, talking to Suge. And what she says is what Duane Davis interprets as them chasing her, she'll tell you is them just panicking and trying to get away. But she will say they inadvertently follow Duane Davis and the other people in the white car as they are fleeing. After Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur's vehicle is shot, Suge Knight makes a